Unknown aspects of the moon. The moon is a fascinating object that has captured our attention since the beginning of time. It's been around for billions of years and has played an important part in many cultures across the world, from ancient Greek mythology to modern-day pop culture. In this article, I'll be going over some of the lesser-known aspects of the moon that most people don't know about. Scientists discover new aspects of the moon on a regular basis. They recently found that its core is hot and active. The heat of the moon's core has been discovered by scientists. Scientists have found that the moon's core is hot and active, according to reports from NASA. This is new information about our celestial neighbor, and it could help us better understand how planets form around other stars in our galaxy. The moon orbits around Earth at an average distance of 237,685 miles. This distance varies by about 6,000 miles during each orbit, with the closest approach being called perigee and the farthest departure being called apogee. The moon's speed also varies. It travels at 2,287 miles per hour when it is closest to Earth and 1,080 miles per hour when it is furthest away from us. The tides are caused by differences in gravitational attraction between landmasses, like those found on our planet, and oceans. That's why there are high tides along coasts when they're near large bodies of water like oceans or seas. Unlike winds that blow from one place to another across landmasses without much regard for where you live, because wind doesn't care about where you live any more than gravity cares about where your house stands on its foundation. The moon's gravity pulls on the Earth, creating tides in our oceans. These tides are caused by the moon's gravity and are much smaller than they would be if the moon were much larger. However, because it is so small compared to Earth and its mass is not very large, about 0.5% of our planet's, its gravitational pull is still quite strong enough to have an effect on water levels around Earth. The water on one side of an ocean facing towards the moon will experience slightly more weight than its neighbor because there are more molecules pulling down onto that side of land. Thus, you might see a higher tide than usual during times when there's high moonlight shining down on your neighborhood beachfront property or bayfront houseboat rental condo complex, or whatever. The moon has no atmosphere. The only natural satellite with no atmosphere is the moon, which has a very thin layer of gases surrounding it that are not considered an atmosphere because they're too thin to be seen from Earth's surface. The surface gravity on the moon is about 1/6 that of Earth's, so if you were standing on it and jumped up into the air, like astronauts do, you would experience just over 6 times your weight when you hit ground again. But don't worry, you won't get hurt by landing headfirst onto our closest neighbor in space. It takes 28 days for the moon to orbit around the Earth and 27 days for it to completely rotate. That means we always see only one side of it. The moon takes 28 days to orbit the Earth, and 27 days for it to rotate on its axis. This means that every time you look at the moon, you only see half of it. The dark side of our nearest neighbor is called the far side, while its bright side is called the near side. The temperature can get as high as +270 degrees Fahrenheit in sunlight and as low as -280 degrees Fahrenheit in shadow. This is because there is no atmosphere to hold heat, so sunlight directly hits the surface of the moon. The lack of atmosphere also means that there are no clouds to reflect light back into space. Instead, everything reflects directly onto your face at any given moment during your walk around on this planet's only natural satellite. There are some interesting things about the moon we don't all know. Here are a few of them. The moon is the only natural satellite of Earth, and it's also one of the most mysterious objects in our solar system. It can be found orbiting around us at an average distance of 238,855 kilometers, 146 million miles. The moon is slightly smaller than our planet, with an average diameter at 3,476 kilometers, 2,133 miles, so small that you could fit 100 Earths inside it. The moon has no atmosphere like we do on Earth. This means that there are no clouds or water vapor present on its surface either. Because of this lack of weathering effects from wind and raindrops falling down onto rocks or trees growing on top them. Conclusion: the moon has been a source of fascination for thousands of years, and it's still the subject of scientific study today. Even though it may seem like we know everything there is to know about our closest neighbor in space, we haven't even scratched the surface. There are still many questions left unanswered about this mysterious object that orbits us every 27 days.